Adjunct Professor Moran, Microeconomics, 112. The formula we want to use for the arc midpoint formula of demand elasticity, measuring the responsiveness of a change in quantity demanded to a change in price, is this formula. It's quite elaborate. It's Q minus a prior Q divided by Q plus Q divided by 2 divided by P divided by P1, all divided by P plus P1 divided by 2. Again, we might think that what we want to do, if we're trying to measure the responsiveness of quantity to a change in price, is just measure the change in quantity over the change in price. But a dollar change in a pack of gum is very different than a dollar change in a car in terms of percentages. Absolute value, the change in a dollar in a car is nothing. So we want to convert this to a change in percentage. Dividing it by where you started from gives you a percentage. But believe it or not, if you go from 1 to 2 and then calculate the numbers 2 to 1, you'll get a different percentage. So we can't use this formula. And to demonstrate it, we're going to take a minute to show that this formula doesn't work, which is why we have to take this formula, dividing it by the midpoint of where you started will give you, dividing this change by 2 will give you the midpoint. So from 2 to 1 and 1 to 2, you'll be at 1.5. And then it'll be the same whether you're going from $1 to 2 or 2 to 1. To demonstrate this concept, we're going to do this one to show you why this formula doesn't work. We have to use the other formula. So let's go ahead and solve for elasticity if you go from 1 to 2. So we're going from 1 to 2. So this would be P sub nothing is 2, and we're starting at 1. Whoop, that's the bottom. That's the price, right? So we need quantity on top. And P sub nothing is going to be 160 minus 180, or where you started, 180, all divided by, you have to keep the matching data points, so if you put the 160 first, you have to put the 2 first. So doing that, we have a negative 20 over 180, all divided by 1 over 1. This is 1/9, and we're going to do the absolute value, so we're going to ignore the negative sign, over 1. Invert and multiply, and we have 1/9. Which is 11%, 0.11. Now let's do it the opposite way. Now we've gone from 1 to 2. Now let's go from 2 to 1. The denominator changes because that's where we started from. Oh, I did it again. I have to switch these. It's 180 minus 160 divided by 160, where you start from, over 1 minus 2 divided by 2. This gives you a positive change of 20 divided by 160 over negative 1 over 2. This is 1/8 divided by 1/2. So absolute value, so ignore that. That's 2 over 1, which is 1/8, which is 1/4, or 0.25. That means that when we go from 1 to 2, the elasticity of demand will be 0.11. But when we go from 2 to 1, the elasticity will be 0.25. And that doesn't make sense. That's not really a tight thing to do. So instead, we're going to use the midpoint formula and make all the changes from the midpoint, which would be Q minus Q1, and we're going to take this and change it to a midpoint. To do that, we're going to add Q plus Q1 divided by 2, and that will give us the midpoint.